For the first time in my life, I'm not thinking about the past and I'm not thinking about the future. I'm just thinking about today. And I think that's always been my goal. It would have been nice to get there without cancer, but I'm here and I'm really happy that I can just be here today, right now. I've always been thoughtful about keeping in line with my doctors and being proactive about stuff, but obviously having a kid, you just start to plan your life better and try to be here as long as you can, and those things were forefront of my brain. So it started with having my first mammogram, but then that was clear. And then I had heard about the BRCA gene, and I also heard about these tests that can test you for a lot of other cancer genes. So I took the first test and it was clear. It came back negative for all cancer genes that we tested for, including BRCA. And so that was very exciting. So I tell Dr. Ali that I had gotten this genetic test done and that it came back negative for all cancer genes. And she said, I actually want to do another test on you. And it's an easy test. It's called the risk assessment test. And so she did it right there in the office. And she turned around and said, your score is pretty high. It's 37.3%. And I want you to go get an MRI. So I get the MRI, and then they call me an hour later and they tell me that they found something. And I called Dr. Ali and she says, you need to go get an ultrasound. And so I go get this ultrasound, and as the technician is doing the ultrasound, she's taking quite a bit of time, and I just say, is everything okay? And she said, well, I have to go get the doctor. And that's never, a good sign. So the doctor comes back in and I just said, can you just tell me what you see? She said, well, I see the one from the MRI, but now I'm finding 2 more. So they said, okay, you have to go get an emergency biopsy tomorrow because 1 is right by your lymph nodes and we need to move fast if this is something. So I go and I do the biopsy, and they do 3 biopsies, and then 3 days later I get the call from Dr. Ali to come into her office. So at that point I knew that it can't be good news. So I made my way all the way back over to her office and was waiting, as you do in a doctor's office, just waiting and waiting. And she finally came in and I just blurted out, is it cancer? And she said, it is. I was meeting all of my different doctors to pick my team. My doctor at Cedars-Sinai said, it is unusual for you to have cancer in multiple places in your breast. I want to go back to your original MRI and I want to look at your other breast. And we went in and we looked at the MRI, and he said, I see something on your left side and I want you to do another biopsy. And the positioning of this tumor was in a position where I had to do an MRI biopsy, which is an interesting thing. You have to lie flat and your breasts go into this, opening, and you go in and it's robotic, and I think they position everything and it goes and it takes a sample, and then that was confirmed to also be cancer. And that's when the doctor said to me, this is definitely more rare to have bilateral breast cancer in multiple places in your breast, and you could do a lumpectomy, but if you do a lumpectomy, your risk of getting more breast cancer is still going to be incredibly high, and you're going to be looking over your shoulder for the rest of your life as you keep checking this. So doing a double mastectomy, if that's what you feel comfortable with, would be the best decision. I think about my baby. I think about how I'm gonna tell John. You just think, just scared. Yeah. And then your brain just kind of goes blank because you're just taking in information. And there's something in your brain that tells you, stop with the other thoughts, stop being scared. They're telling you something right now. You're just getting all this information and you're about to go into a huge battle, and you don't have time to worry or ask too many questions that don't matter. Just take this information and start walking. at that point, it was like, that's my only option, I felt, to be aggressive and to give myself the best shot at overcoming this. So, leading up into this surgery, I had gotten all the information that I needed. I spoke to so many people, friends who were doctors, friends who had friends who had gone through this. I really tried to be prepared, but the truth is that nothing could prepare me for what I would feel like, what it would look like, how I would handle it emotionally. It was a lot tougher than I expected. So the first part is tough because it's just a lot of pain. You've gone through a massive surgery, and I didn't really at that time think about what I had lost. Because you're all bandaged up and you're not really thinking about it. Then when I get home 3 days later, Malcolm runs up and he said, "Mama, pick you up?" And I said, "Oh, I can't pick you up." And I squatted down to give him a hug, and then he just sat on my leg and he goes, "But Mama, pick you up." And that was probably one of the hardest things, because all you want to do is, pick up your baby. And I could just sit there and hold him. But at that age, they just want to be up and walking. And so then I just get to resting, and, thankfully I have John there, who just did so much and took such great care of me and Malcolm. And I just rested. And then a week later, I go in to see the doctor to get your post checkup. And I saw myself for the first time, and I was in shock. It was incredibly hard. And the doctor was telling me how fantastic I looked, which made it even harder, because fantastic is the top. You don't get better than fantastic. So I thought, this doesn't get better. This is fantastic for him, because he's seen so many of these probably go, south, and not what people are wanting and expecting. But it was a shock. It was a shock to my system. I had such a hard time, but I remember just looking in the mirror with him and just having no emotion, just taking in what he's saying. And when I got home, I undressed and looked in the mirror again, and that's when I just absolutely broke down. I didn't know what, I just thought, what am I gonna wear? I just thought, oh my gosh, this is what I look like, and I don't wanna look at myself right now. And that was really tough. That was what it looks like with the expanders. Now, it's different once you actually do the reconstruction. And it's much better, but it's not the same. And that's okay, because I'm here, and I'm okay with that now. And I'm extremely happy that I had the option to have a double mastectomy. I'm extremely happy that I got the opportunity to fight. I was given that chance, and I know a lot of people in my situation don't have that opportunity and don't have that as an option. So I'm extremely grateful, and I'm really happy with whatever it is I look like now. So I'm basically on a treatment of suppressing all of my hormones. So I will go into menopause, and I will shut down all of the hormone production in my tissues and my ovaries. Everything gets shut down. And that's, again, more problems. But I figured, as a woman, I can't escape menopause. So I'd rather just bring it on now, as I can, tackle it head on. Postpartum is really difficult, and I was not prepared for the kind of postpartum that I had. I had heard about postpartum depression. I had never heard about postpartum anxiety. And it was incredibly difficult. On a scale of 1 to 10, I would put my postpartum anxiety at 100. It was truly the most challenging thing. I mean, I went through something challenging this past year, but I don't think it compares to what I went through postpartum. It was about a month after I had the baby that I woke up out of nowhere. It's 4 a.m., my eyes pop open, and I just start breathing like I can't breathe. My chest is tight, and it stays like that all day long. And it was like that every day for almost a year. I woke up at 4 a.m., my eyes pop open, and I take that breath, and it doesn't stop all day long. There would be days where I would have to be clenching onto John's arm and walking from room to room. I couldn't manage, and I didn't have, thankfully, any like intrusive self-harm thoughts or anything negative towards my baby at all. I know a lot of women deal with that, and my heart goes out to them, because there are just feelings and thoughts you can't control for some reason when you're postpartum like this. And I struggled with that so much, but I was able to be there and be happy. It's just I couldn't breathe the whole time. And it just eventually lifted. It lifted. And then, I put on over 60 pounds with my pregnancy. I've been told 35 is the ideal number. I went way above that. And so the weight didn't just come off of me. And, I took some more time to start to work out and to eat in a more healthy way after my postpartum lifted. And then I started feeling like myself again, and I started feeling better. And then the diagnosis, and then understanding that the diagnosis means that my body is going to change yet again. And I really just didn't have a moment to catch my breath. I haven't really felt like I've been back in the body that I knew before. But that's okay for me. It truly is. I feel so happy that I got myself through it, that, if I have a few scars and dents and, bathing suits look different on me now, like, that's okay. And I'm proud of myself for what I went through. And, it's a very profound journey to find out how much strength and resilience I have. It's more than I thought I had. When I'm with Malcolm, it's really the only time your brain doesn't think about that you're sick. I'm just so happy with him. I'm just so happy in my life. He's just the most fun little person. He's just so communicative and fun and laughs so much. And it really puts a lot of stuff into perspective, because if my body changes, I'm still his mom. If I have hot flashes, I'm still his mom. If I lose my hair, I'm still his mom. That's really what matters the most to me. I get to be here for him. So, I think the hardest thing is that I've spent a lot of time in bed. And, surgery after surgery after surgery, it's exhausting on your body. And the medicine you take is extremely exhausting. But I'm finding more energy, and he's happy, so it makes me happy. John, he is, man, I don't think that he had a moment to himself this past year between being an incredibly hands-on father to Malcolm, and then going to and from the hospital. This is what John's life was like, truly. through 4 surgeries over 10 months. He was literally taking Malcolm to the park, to music class, to wherever, coming home, giving him lunch, putting him to nap, driving over to Cedars-Sinai, hanging out with me, bringing me food, going back home, playing with Malcolm, putting him to bed, coming back to Cedars-Sinai. I mean, there really wasn't a moment for him to really relax and breathe, and he did it all happily. And I could not, it would have felt like climbing an iceberg without him. It would have been so difficult, but thankfully it was a lot more manageable because of him. Going to the Oscars and the Vanity Fair Oscar party, there was, obviously there's concern that, especially with, I had a lot of concern about the scars that I have, and thankfully my makeup artist worked really hard to minimize those. But it's the most comfortable I've ever felt on a red carpet. And I think it's the happiest that I've ever been on a red carpet. And the most out of my own head that I felt, because like whatever anybody said about me, about what I look like, about the dress that I picked, about what my hair and makeup looked like that day, I don't think it would have mattered because I liked the way that I felt. And I just see myself differently, and I'm much more comfortable in my skin, even though it looks very different now. Talking about this publicly has healed me a lot. It is hard to keep something like this private as much as you want to be private about it. There's some anxiety over it coming out before you're ready for it to come out, and the response has been truly amazing and has really healed me a lot. And knowing how many women have made calls to their doctors and taken these tests and trying to get in front of it has just really filled me with so much just joy and happiness, and made me feel like, okay, this, I went through this, but it's gonna hopefully help a lot of women. And that gives me so much happiness. It's all I want is for more women to be able to advocate for themselves, and if there's anybody who might be in my same situation, if they find out that they end up having cancer and they didn't think they did, well, that's all I'm hoping for. I don't want to spend any more days not smiling and laughing. I don't want to spend any more days not being happy with my baby. I want him to see me happy and healthy and strong. There are, of course, sad days, and there are times where, I grew my hair out because I wanted to be able to cover up some of my scars. So sometimes I look in the mirror and I think about oh, my hair is so long now, and it's because of this. And sometimes it makes me a little sad that I still want to hide certain aspects. But then I remind myself that those are battle wounds, and I can show them when I want, and I can, hide them when I want. And even those little things where I don't beat myself up for anything I'm feeling on any given day. I just let myself feel it. And there's a really nice peace that comes with that.